Today, we're exploring something that honestly feels like the key to unlocking, well, what many people dream of, right? A truly fulfilling life.
Yeah, the quote-unquote dream life.
Exactly. And that was really interesting and maybe surprising is that it seems more accessible than you might think. It's not just for the super smart or, the naturally gifted.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we've really gotten into some powerful material, specifically excerpts from a book called The Power of Discipline.
Okay.
And it really acts like a manual almost, a
Yeah.
guide to understanding and, crucially, building self-control.
So, our mission today is to unpack the core ideas from this source, maybe reveal some surprising bits about psychology,
Hmm.
and most importantly, give you some strategies you can actually use. It's all about empowering you, really, helping you take control of your habits.
And ultimately, your life.
Yeah, because the source really hammers this home.
Right.
You are the only one who can change your life.
Yeah.
In the simplest way, it seems to be changing what you do every day.
That's the core of it.
Okay, so let's really unpack this. Discipline as a key. What does that actually mean?
Well, the insight we found is that self-discipline really is like that. It's the key that opens the door to, personal fulfillment, the life you've maybe been picturing.
All right.
It shows how someone who's, let's say, average, but disciplined, can actually get further than someone with loads of natural talent, but no self-control.
So, like, an ordinary person can become extraordinary with it.
Exactly. While the talented one might just stay, well, average, stuck in mediocrity.
And there's a biological side to this. It's not just willpower.
That's a really crucial point. It's not an unlimited resource.
Yeah.
Think about your muscles after a hard workout, they get tired, right?
Sure.
Well, willpower and self-discipline are kind of the same. They get worn down with use. It's not just a feeling. There's a real physiological basis.
Okay, so that sounds like what people call willpower fatigue. How does that actually play out?
Right. There's a great study from '96, I think,
Uh-huh.
by a psychologist named Will Baumeister.
Yeah.
He had about 67 people,
Mhm.
put them in a room with tempting cookies and also, well, radishes.
Radishes.
Oh, yeah, bitter radishes. One group could eat the cookies, the other had to eat the radishes. Talk about testing restraint.
Definitely.
Afterwards, both groups got this puzzle to solve one that was actually impossible. The point was to see how long they'd persist.
Yeah, and the radish eaters?
They gave up much faster, significantly faster. Their willpower had been depleted by resisting those cookies.
Wow. So the takeaway for you listening is what? Even super disciplined people can just run out of steam.
Precisely. If you're constantly facing temptation, your self-control wears down. You wouldn't try to lift weights for 24 hours straight, right?
Owie.
Same idea. You can't just exercise willpower nonstop without needing to recharge it somehow.
Which brings us to the benefits then. If it's this limited resource, why is it so important?
Because it affects everything. The source material is really clear on this. Your job, your relationships, your finances, studying, it's essential across the board,
It's the foundation for success everywhere.
pretty much. And one benefit that really jumped out was the link to self-confidence.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, a lack of discipline often leads to low self-esteem. Think about New Year's resolutions.
Oh, yeah. Everyone makes them.
And most people forget them by February, right? You set a goal, you don't follow through, and you end up feeling kind of worthless.
Like, I can't even stick to this simple thing.
Exactly. Like dreaming about looking great in a bathing suit versus actually doing the things needed to get there. Sitting on the couch won't make it happen.
Inactivity leads to failure. That's a direct quote we saw.
It is. And beyond confidence, it helps avoid risky stuff. There's this theory in criminology.
Hershey and Gottfredson.
That's the one.
Hmm.
Self-control theory. It suggests that a lack of self-control, often developed early, can be a big factor in, well, criminal behavior.
Not the only factor,
Oh,
obviously.
definitely not. But it highlights how not being able to resist immediate urges can lead down a bad path. Most of us, even if we're broke, have enough self-control not to, say, rob a bank.
Even if it might seem like an easy fix at the moment.
Right. The consequences are too great, and we can control that impulse.
Okay, so if discipline is so good for us, why is changing our ways so incredibly hard? It feels like fighting yourself sometimes.
It really does. And a big reason is something called the status quo bias.
Status quo bias.
It's like a powerful mind trick keeping us
Yes.
stuck. Same jobs, same routines, maybe even the same ambitions we've outgrown.
Why do we do that?
A major driver is loss aversion. Basically, we hate losing things, even things that aren't that valuable. So subconsciously, we kind of assume any change, even a good one like moving, or getting married,
Hmm.
will somehow hurt us more than staying put. There's always this perceived cost to change.
And we just instinctively resist paying it.
Yeah. Plus, there's the fear of regret.
Oh, that's a big one. Making a change and then wishing you hadn't.
Exactly. Often tied to worrying about what others will think, friends, family.
Right, fear of judgment.
So that fear of failing, or maybe just fear of looking stupid, keeps people in their comfort zone, even if it's not fulfilling.
What's really interesting is how the material framed this. It said failure isn't final, but regret. Regret can be much worse.
That really stood out. The idea that looking back and thinking, what if? What if I just tried? That feeling can be way more painful than trying and actually failing.
Because you learn from failure. Right, successful people fail all the time.
They do. They use it. But regret from not acting, that just eats at you. We shouldn't fear failure. We should fear that gnawing regret.
And there's another subtle thing, too, the mere exposure effect.
Ah, yes. The more you encounter something, a word, a symbol, even a person, the more you tend to like it or accept it.
Even if you felt neutral at first.
Yeah. There was a study back in '68 showing just that. More exposure led to more positive feelings. This is why you might grow to like someone the more you see them.
So how does that link to discipline?
Well, it cuts both ways. If you make self-control your norm, you get used to it, you like it more, and you're less likely to slip back. But it also explains why breaking bad habits is so tough. That comfy habit of sleeping in on Saturdays. You're very exposed to that.
Huh. Yeah, I know that feeling.
The key thing to remember is, the more you repeat the new behavior, the easier and more normal it feels. Repetition builds acceptance.
So this status quo bias, it keeps you safe, maybe. But it also stops you from reaching for your dreams.
That's the trade-off. It guarantees safety within your current limits, but it also pretty much guarantees you won't reach your full potential.
Okay, so those are the barriers. How do we actually start building this discipline? Where do we begin forging the tools?
It starts with a pretty fundamental truth. Your habits reflect your character.
Oof, that's direct.
It is. Like if your friends always tell you to arrive an hour early because you're always late, well, lateness is part of your character in their eyes, right?
Yeah, okay, I see that.
And bad habits often create a negative spiral. Late to bed means tired waking up, means grabbing junk food, means feeling sluggish. It cascades.
And the source said actions come from thoughts, and repetition makes them habits.
Exactly. Which is why routines are incredibly powerful, especially the morning routine,
The morning routine, everyone talks about that.
because it sets the tone for the entire day. Think about the difference between hitting snooze 5 times, rushing out the door, grabbing something unhealthy.
Yeah, that day usually doesn't go well. You feel behind from the start.
Right. You might even think, well, I already messed up breakfast, might as well have a bad lunch too. It's a downward slope.
Versus waking up on time, maybe getting some exercise, eating something decent.
Totally different feeling. You feel energized, positive. You're more likely to keep making good choices. And look at successful people. There's a pattern.
Like Obama, Gates, Oprah.
Yeah, the examples we found were consistent. Obama, 7 a.m., 45 minutes exercise. Gates, up super early, treadmill with educational stuff. Oprah, walk, affirmations, meditation. They all have a fixed morning routine. It's deliberate.
And the evening routine is just as important.
Absolutely critical. Sleep is when your body repairs, your mind rests, you recharge. You need quality sleep.
So what does a good evening routine look like?
Aim for at least 7 hours. Limit naps during the day, maybe 30 minutes max. Avoid caffeine and nicotine later on. Watch heavy, fatty foods before bed.
Makes sense. Indigestion doesn't help sleep.
Nope. And establish something relaxing. A warm bath, reading a book, gentle stretches, and make sure your bedroom works for sleep. Comfy mattress, dark, cool, quiet. Maybe eye shades, blackout curtains.
It's about setting yourself up for success the next day, too.
Exactly. Imagine feeling less stressed because things are organized, having more energy because you're not wading through clutter. These small habits add up massively.
Okay, this next idea feels intense. Embracing discomfort.
Yeah, this one's a big mindset shift. The material talks about the 40% rule.
The 40% rule.
The idea is when your mind is screaming, I'm done, I can't possibly do any more,
Yeah.
you're actually only at about 40% of your real capacity.
Wow. Only 40%.
Yes, the concept. Pushing through that mental wall, that feeling of pain or exhaustion, is how you break your limits and build serious mental toughness and confidence.
Like doing 10 pull-ups, feeling totally wiped.
And then deliberately pushing yourself to do more. Maybe even reaching 20 after a short break. In that moment, you've just proved your own mind wrong.
That's powerful.
There's also a great analogy in the source material. Imagine you're running, totally exhausted, ready to collapse.
Oh, okay.
But then suddenly, someone dangerous is chasing you. Your life depends on it. Would you stop?
No way. You'd find energy you didn't know you had.
Exactly. It shows how often we're just unaware of our true capabilities. We get complacent, accept limitations. Pushing past that discomfort unlocks what's really possible.
And this ties into how elite performers handle pressure, like Navy SEALs.
Precisely. They have to master what's called arousal control in incredibly high-stress situations, managing that fight, flight, or freeze response.
How do they do that?
One key technique is box breathing.
Box breathing.
Yeah. When they feel stress rising, they take control. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, breathe out, hold for 4. Repeat until calm.
So it's a very deliberate, structured way to regulate the nervous system.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, right, if SEALs can learn to literally stop the stress response, why are most of us just told to manage stress? A stressed mind isn't productive. This gives you real control.
And then there was Jia Jiang's rejection therapy. That TED Talk was amazing.
Oh, yeah, the 100 days of rejection.
Yeah.
He deliberately put himself in situations where he'd likely be rejected.
Like asking a stranger for $100, playing soccer in someone's backyard.
Crazy stuff. But by facing that fear head on, repeatedly, he basically desensitized himself to it. He overcame his social anxiety and got way more confident.
So the lesson is, do the scary thing.
Pretty much, the material suggests. Whatever makes you uncomfortable, lean into it. Don't like talking to strangers. Introduce yourself. Think you can't dance. Sign up for a class. It builds that discipline muscle.
What about the 10x rule? That sounds ambitious.
It is. That's Grant Cardone's idea. Set your goals 10 times higher than what you actually want.
10 times? Why?
Because it forces you to think bigger and take massively more action. If you want to lose 10 pounds, aim for 100. You might not need to lose 100, but aiming that high forces you to consider real lifestyle changes, not just quick fixes.
It changes the whole approach.
Completely. And for those tough moments when you just want to quit, there's the 10-minute rule.
How does that work?
Simple. Feeling exhausted on the treadmill. Tell yourself, just 10 more minutes. That's it. Often, after those 10 minutes, you find you can actually keep going.
It breaks the mental barrier of, I can't.
Exactly. It proves again and again that discipline isn't fixed. It's built through these small, consistent pushes.
But it's not always smooth sailing, is it? We hit roadblocks, like Parkinson's law.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Parkinson's law. The idea that work expands to fill the time you give it.
So if you have all day to do a task.
It'll probably take all day. Cyril Parkinson noticed this in the British Civil Service. Give people more time, they find ways to use it, making things more complex than needed.
So the fix is tight deadlines.
Exactly. Give yourself less time. It forces efficiency, makes you simplify, and avoids that last-minute panic.
And then there's the old enemy, procrastination.
The master of disguise. It often hides as waiting for the right time or perfect conditions.
Like, oh, my legs are sore, can't go to the gym today.
Right. Even though you could do upper body or cardio. Discipline means doing what needs doing, regardless of how you feel. Inaction and excuses, they're twins, the source says. Both lead to failure.
And those perfect conditions, they never really arrive, do they?
Never. Waiting to quit smoking until work is less stressful? There's always stress. If you can't act now, why would you act later under similar pressure?
What about over-planning? Can that be a trap?
Definitely. Spending forever planning means less time doing. Sometimes you just need to start and figure things out along the way.
And perfectionism, that seems related.
Hugely related. Society pushes perfection, which creates this massive fear of failure, so we just postpone, put things off.
So how do you fight that?
The material suggests the 70% rule. Start when you feel about 70% ready or sure of success.
Not 100%.
You'll never be 100% certain. If you want to run a marathon but can only run 2 miles now, that 2 miles is your 70%. Start there. Build from there.
That ties into false hope syndrome too, right? Thinking change will be easy.
Exactly. Believing it'll be a breeze sets you up for failure when it inevitably gets tough. Professor Peter Herman pointed out that people fail because they aim for these huge, unsustainable transformations right out of the gate.
Which leads us to maybe the most important idea, focusing on the system, not just the goal.
Yes. This is a huge insight. Goals are the destination. Systems are the vehicle. The daily process. Lots of people have goals. Few achieve them. Why? Often the system is broken or just missing.
Can you give an example?
Think of a football coach. If they only focused on win the championship, but ignored daily practice, drills, player conditioning, would they win?
Probably not consistently.
Right. Winning comes from the system of daily improvement.
Yeah.
You need goals for direction, absolutely. But without a system, you're likely in that 92% who ditch their New Year's resolutions.
Because goals don't stick without habit change.
Exactly. Like cleaning a messy room, it gets messy again if you don't change the habit of leaving stuff out. Or losing weight on a crash diet, it comes back if your eating habits don't change.
It's treating the symptom, not the cause, like taking painkillers for a headache caused by dehydration.
Perfect analogy. The headache keeps coming back until you address the root cause. Drink more water.
So how do we address the root cause? The material talked about 3 levels of change.
Right. Outcomes, the results, like losing weight.
Yeah.
Processes,
Oh,
like you
yeah.
do, like going to the gym.
Yeah.
And identity, your core beliefs about yourself.
And the most important is,
Identity. Lasting change comes from shifting who you believe you are. If you only focus on the outcome, the changes are temporary. You'll revert.
can you give that smoking example again? It was
Yeah.
really clear.
Sure. Person 1 says, I'm trying to quit smoking. Their identity is still smoker. Person 2 says, I don't smoke.
Ah, total identity shift.
Exactly. They've changed who they are at a fundamental level. The behavior, not smoking, now aligns with their identity.
And that Brian Clark nail-biting story.
Yeah, great example. He bit his nails his whole life. Goal was just to grow them. Then he got a manicure.
And that changed things.
Profoundly. He suddenly felt proud of his nails, liked how they looked. His identity shifted. He wasn't a nail biter anymore. He was someone who cared for his nails. The biting stopped, replaced by grooming.
So we really need to watch out for those negative self-stories. I'm always late. I'm not a morning person.
Absolutely. If you repeat those enough, they become your reality. Your subconscious fights anything that contradicts that self-image.
Yeah.
Unlearning those is key.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Mastering the mind. Zen philosophy came up.
Yes, some powerful ideas there. Buddha taught that suffering is, well, part of life. But often we cause our own suffering by clinging to things, especially a rigid idea of self. Letting go of that, accepting our connection to everything, brings balance. Material stuff, status, they become less important. Focus shifts to inner growth.
And living in the present, that was big too.
Huge. The past is memory. The future isn't here yet. Worrying about what might happen just causes pain now.
How does this relate to goals? Doesn't Zen mean letting go of ambition?
Not necessarily. Zen can help you break free from limiting ideas like, I must be a high achiever, which can lead to burnout. But it's not anti-success. Buddha's Eightfold Path has clear goals.
Oh, man.
Living in the present actually helps with goals. It lets you focus on the small step you can take today instead of being overwhelmed by the huge gap between here and the finish line.
And the Shaolin monks came up as examples of extreme discipline.
The ultimate masters, really. Founded 1,500 years ago, trained in spirituality and incredible physical and mental control. Think ironhead technique, breaking concrete with their foreheads. They embody discipline.
And a core practice for them and for us is meditation.
Absolutely fundamental. The benefits are numerous. Better focus, concentration, more rational decisions, better handling of urges.
Delayed gratification.
Yes. It doesn't magically remove problems, but it helps you respond calmly, even to really tough stuff. And there's science behind it.
The PNAS study.
Right. Just 20 minutes a day for 5 days showed measurable drops in anxiety, stress, fatigue. Imagine your productivity with that kind of mental control.
So how do you start meditating? What are the techniques?
One basic one is Zazen, or just sitting. Sit comfortably, straight back, eyes open with a soft gaze. Stay awake, be present.
Sounds simple, but maybe not easy.
It takes practice. A slightly more advanced version is Shikantaza, also just sitting, but you pay attention to everything, inside and out. Thoughts come. You just notice them like clouds, without judgment, and let them float by. Don't beat yourself up if your mind wanders. Just gently bring it back. It's a skill.
What if sitting still is hard?
Then try Kinhin, Zen walking meditation. Barefoot, stand straight, specific hand posture. Take super slow, deliberate steps, timed with your breath, 1 step per inhale, 1 per exhale. It builds control through mastering movement.
Okay, all this builds towards the do mindset.
Yes, the big shift. Stop trying, start doing. Be decisive. Trying implies limits. Life gives back what you put in, so commit to action.
Like Deepak Chopra, still going strong in his 70s, saying, don't try, do.
Exactly. Become a doer. Trust your abilities, but be realistic. Take stock of strengths and weaknesses. No, poor me. Ask for help if needed. Learn new skills.
And belief is key.
Total belief in yourself combined with hard work, and know exactly what you want. Be specific.
Like the difference between lose 20 pounds and...
Lose 20 pounds, triple my gym lift, save for 2 new outfits by summer. The second one has detail, emotion, excitement. It motivates more because it feels real.
And you need to consider the sacrifices involved, too.
Crucial. What do you need to give up? Less TV time. Waking up earlier. Knowing this upfront stops you from getting discouraged later. It confirms you really want it.
But just wanting it isn't enough.
Yeah.
Motivation runs out. How do you enjoy the process?
Great question. You need to find satisfaction in the work itself. That's the power of association.
Like Pavlov's dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They salivated at the bell because they associate it with food. You can condition yourself, too. Pair the hard work with positive feelings before, during, after. Consistently.
Like the gold star chart idea.
Yeah, it sounds childish, but seeing visual progress, feeling that little bit of achievement, it works. Put it somewhere visible. It reinforces the positive link.
Okay, what about fear and failure? How do we confront those?
When fear feels overwhelming, write it down. What am I afraid of? Then, what's the absolute worst that could happen?
And then?
Brainstorm solutions for that worst case. Fear of bad tenants, plan for insurance, repair a budget, getting references. Fear often sparks problem solving when you face it directly.
And sometimes loss gives perspective.
Profoundly. Losing someone can make you realize how short life is, how trivial some worries are. That clarity can boost focus and discipline. You channel energy into what matters. Some people do amazing things in memory of loved ones.
What about shame versus guilt?
Important distinction. Guilt is usually healthy. I did something bad, leads to amends. Shame is, I am bad, feeling fundamentally flawed. It's destructive.
How do you deal with shame? Brene Brown's advice.
Confide in someone trusted. Find acceptance. Forgive yourself. Letting go of shame builds self-compassion.
And handling actual failure.
See it as a lesson. What went wrong? What worked? Learn, adapt, move on. Don't get emotionally stuck. It takes discipline to be objective about your own setbacks.
You mentioned Sturgeon's law and Pareto principle.
Right. Sturgeon, 90% of everything is crap. Helps with critical thinking, find the valuable 10%. Pareto, 80-20 rule. 80% of results often come from 20% of effort. Helps focus your discipline where it counts most.
Okay, last big area. Managing workload, avoiding burnout. Scheduling is key.
Absolutely. Yeah. Estimate time needed for tasks, maybe add 50% if unsure. 1.5x. Track your time to get better estimates. People avoid scheduling because they fear the work, but acknowledging it reduces stress long term.
And if burnout happens?
Treat it seriously, like an injury. Take real time off a week, maybe 2. Let body and mind recover. Tell people you need the break. It's a skill, balancing pushing hard with protecting yourself.
So wrapping this up, just by listening to this deep dive, you've shown some discipline already.
That's true. You've invested time and focus.
And the key takeaway is that self-discipline isn't just for specific goals, it's a lifestyle. It should become part of your character. Your current life is really a sum of your past decisions.
And you have the power to change future decisions. Remember that Jim Rohn quote?
You must take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You cannot change the circumstances, but you can change yourself.
Powerful stuff.
You probably tuned in because you feel something's not quite right, maybe you feel stuck or in the wrong place. But guess what? That feeling, that's exactly how almost every successful person felt before they started making changes.
They didn't just wish for things to be different. They took action. Consistently.
Yeah.
Day by day.
So the real question for you now is, what's one small proactive step you can take today, right now, to start building that disciplined autopilot and begin radically transforming your life?